Jaein, and these are the stories we're following at this hour. Progress is being made with North Korea. Washington's top diplomat says the Trump administration plans to achieve North Korea's denuclearization by the end of Trump's first term. South Korea's GDP expanded 0.7% in the second quarter of this year, in line with estimates, but slower than the first 3 months of the year, which logged 1% growth. UNESCO adds new sites to its world network of biosphere reserves, one of which is South Korea's city of Suncheon and another North Korea's Mount Kumgang. Our starting point this morning, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo reveals the Trump administration's goal on North Korea. He says the U.S. plan is for the regime's denuclearization by the end of President Donald Trump's first term in office. Our Jae-in starts us off.
The U.S. had been careful to avoid mentioning a specific timeline for North Korea's denuclearization, but U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has reiterated the Trump administration's previous hopes of achieving the regime's complete, verifiable, and irreversible denuclearization by the end of President Donald Trump's current term in office, which runs until January 2021, and hopes to reach that goal more quickly if possible. Secretary Pompeo made such comments at his briefing to the U.S. Senate Foreign Relations Committee on North Korea on Wednesday. Pompeo said that although there is a long way to go, there has been progress and Washington plans to be patient.
We're engaged in patient diplomacy, but we will not let this drag out to no end. I emphasize this position in the productive discussions I had with Vice Chairman Kim Yong-chol. President Trump remains upbeat about the prospects for North Korean denuclearization progress.
But despite the productive discussions and continued efforts to engage in talks with the North, Pompeo confirmed that the regime continues to make material for nuclear weapons.
Senator, I'm trying to make sure I stay on the correct. Yes, that's correct. Yeah. Just trying to make sure I don't cross into classified information. I'm not trying to hesitate. Yes, they continue to produce fissile material.
When asked about whether North Korea was continuing to pursue submarine-launched ballistic missiles or whether its nuclear program is still advancing, Pompeo declined to answer, saying that public statements on the issue would not help a complex negotiation with a difficult adversary. At the hearing, Pompeo also reiterated the importance of North Korea's declaration of its nuclear capabilities, which is one of the key demands from Washington. He said that an initial declaration is vital for the U.S. to verify North Korea's full denuclearization. Jaein, Arirang News.
And South Korean President Jae-in welcomed what's believed to be signs of North Korea's dismantlement of missile engine and launch test sites. Now, such comments were made during a meeting with the new U.S. ambassador to the nation. Our Blue House correspondent Kumgang with the details.
South Korean President Moon Jae-in described satellite images of dismantlement at a North Korean missile site as a good omen for South Korean and U.S. joint efforts for denuclearization. His remarks were made to the new U.S. ambassador to South Korea, Harry B. Harris Jr., as President Donald Trump's chief envoy presented his credentials to the South Korean head of state on Wednesday morning, along with 4 other new ambassadors to the nation. After receiving Harris's credentials, President Moon told the U.S. chief of mission that the respective intelligence agencies have identified that the North has also abolished a missile engine test site and missile launch site, and that this is a good development for the denuclearization of North Korea. He stressed that the strong solidarity of the South Korea-U.S. alliance is now more important than ever as dialogue continues between the two Koreas and between North Korea and the United States at a crucial time. If U.S. remains are returned as promised, President Moon added, it would have a positive impact on Pyongyang-Washington dialogue. Ambassador Harris reportedly agreed with the South Korean president and said his country also looks forward to the shutdown of the North missile engine test site and the return of U.S. soldiers' remains. This was the first meeting between the new U.S. chief of mission and the South Korean president since the retired Navy admiral came to fill the post that had been vacant since his predecessor Mark Lippert's term ended in January 2017. Kumgang, Arirang News, The Blue House.
And over in North Korea, Pyongyang's vice foreign minister met with his Chinese counterpart, who also doubles a role as Beijing's special representative for the Korean Peninsula, to talk mutual interests like boosting bilateral tactical cooperation. Pyongyang's Korean Central News Agency reported that the two sides discussed ways to better their bilateral foreign policies and exchange views on U.S.-North Korea talks on denuclearizing the regime. Although North Korea's news agency did not spell out the agendas of the talks, watchers say it is highly likely that they also talked about ending the Korean War. South Korea's GDP grew in the second quarter by 0.7% from the quarter before. That was slower than the 1% increase seen in the first 3 months this year due to weaker investment. The Bank of Korea says the country's second quarter GDP rose to some $356 billion US. And compared to the same period last year, the economy expanded by 2.9%, somewhat in line with the government projection. Investment in business facilities contracted by 6.6% after growing over 3% in the quarter before, while construction investment fell 1.3%. Now, growth in exports, a major driver of Korea's economy, also slowed down to 0.8% after posting over 4% in the first 3 months. South Korea's presidential office on Thursday holds the first all-staff meetings of its R&D Council chaired by President Moon Jae-in himself. President Moon will push for innovation in research and development, as well as further empowering university research teams at today's Presidential Advisory Council on Science and Technology meeting, under the slogan of People-Centered Science Technology opens the future of innovative growth. Now, government officials in the science and tech industry, scholars, and industry leaders will also be at the meeting to discuss the direction of innovation by R&D joint research organizations. The Korean government will revise the tax code this year in a way that makes taxation more fair and speeds up job creation and innovative growth. The measures were discussed on Thursday at a policy coordination meeting between the ruling Democratic Party of Korea and the members of the government. The core of the revision is to better the income distribution by lowering taxes on those in the low-income bracket while raising real estate taxes and drawing up measures to prevent offshore tax evasion. The two sides also agreed to step up job subsidies for those in the low-income bracket, as well as to increase the number of people eligible for child benefits. The revision will also entail some tax cuts for companies that invest in research for new technologies, as well as for those that create new jobs. The government will soon announce a comprehensive plan, which the National Assembly aims to pass during Parliament's regular session that begins in September. U.S. President Donald Trump and EU Commission's President Jean-Claude Juncker agreed to work toward a zero-tariff deal as they try to avoid full-blown trade war. Now, this following President Trump's threat to impose tariffs on car imports. Our Won Jung-hwan with the details.
U.S. President Donald Trump said Wednesday that he and European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker have agreed to work toward eliminating tariffs and barriers on trade, reducing trade tensions for now.
We agreed today, first of all, to work together toward zero tariffs, zero non-tariff barriers, and zero subsidies on non-auto industrial goods.
While declaring it as a very big day for free and fair trade, Trump said the EU agreed to import more U.S. soybeans and liquefied natural gas. The U.S. and the EU had been on course for a full-on trade war after Trump announced earlier this year tough new levies on steel and aluminum exports, and recently threatening a 25% tariff on European autos, with the EU reciprocating with tariffs against U.S. goods. But some of those issues seem to be resolved during Wednesday's meeting.
We also will resolve the steel and aluminum tariff issues, and we will resolve retaliatory tariffs. We have some tariffs that are retaliatory, and that will get resolved as part of what we're doing.
As both sides agreed to hold off on other tariffs for the time being, the meeting between Trump and Juncker could be the start of a better trade relationship between Europe and the United States. 원정환, Arirang News.
South Korea's southern city of Suncheon in Jeollanam province has been recognized for its rich biodiversity and has made it onto the UNESCO Biosphere Reserves list this year, making it the nation's 6th site on the list. And also making it on the list this year was North Korea's Mount Kumgang. Our Kim Hyo-sun tells us more.
UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, has added several new sites to its world network of biosphere reserves, including Suncheon in South Korea and North Korea's Mount Kumgang. Seoul's Environment Ministry said Wednesday that UNESCO had included Suncheon on the list of new biosphere reserves, which are sites that have well preserved their biodiversity. The entire city of Suncheon, located on the southern tip of South Korea, has been listed, making it the nation's 6th site on the list, along with Mount Seorak and Jeju Island. Suncheon is home to the rich ecosystems of Mount Chogesan and Suncheonman Bay. The residents of Suncheon have also been recognized for incorporating the ecosystem in their economic activities, including rice and fruit cultivation. Suncheon City now aims to let itself known globally by enacting regulations related to the management of its biosphere reserve sites and promoting its local produce. North Korea's Mount Kumgang was also added to the list, making it the North's 5th biosphere reserve site. Kim Hyo-sun, Arirang News.
And now to the unfathomable weather gripping the world. South Korea is not the only place suffering from the scorching heat, as countries around the world have been experiencing somewhat similar heat waves. Now, especially in the northern hemisphere, new records for boiling temperatures have been set for the month of July. So what are some of the reasons behind such extreme weather? Our Kan Hyung-woo tells us more.
This summer has been extremely hot across the northern hemisphere. The US, Canada, Algeria, Norway, and Japan have been seeing record-breaking temperatures for the month of July and extreme heat waves over the past 2 months. In Oman, there was one night in June when the lowest it got was 42.6 degrees Celsius, which is believed to be the highest low ever recorded. Experts say the record-breaking temperatures can be explained by rising concentrations of greenhouse gases, which are a major cause of global warming.
So the biggest reason for these extreme heat waves is climate change, which is a result of global warming. In climate change, the main effect is rising temperatures. The overall temperature of the Earth keeps going up, but the change gets bigger every year.
The World Meteorological Organization predicts that at this rate, the number of so-called heat wave days will double by 2020 and quadruple by 2040. This past June marked the second warmest month on record globally, but experts say the worst of the heat wave may soon be behind us as we approach August.
The heat waves are likely to continue, but we probably won't see the extreme temperatures of over 36 degrees Celsius we've had since last weekend. I think the heat waves in Korea will die down because the North Pacific anticyclone tends to shrink in early August.
The latest typhoon Chongdari is heading towards Japan and may affect the Korean peninsula, but the Korea Meteorological Administration says the storm's course could change. Kan Hyung-woo, Arirang News.
And a new study published this week by an international team of climate scientists revealed the key mechanisms behind El Nino climatic events. Now, the group used Korea as a base for the research, and our Lee Seung-jae tells us more on the results of the study and what makes El Nino so chaotic and unpredictable.
El Nino, meaning the little boy in Spanish, refers to the large climatic event that causes a periodic warming in ocean surface temperatures across the Central and East Pacific. Climate scientists have long recognized that not every El Nino event is alike. Some are weak, others are strong. They also occur in different parts of the Pacific, making it difficult to predict El Nino events. However, a new study published this week by an international team of climate scientists led by Axel Timmerman, the director of the IBS Center for Climate Physics at Busan National University, revealed that there is a hidden structure in the chaotic and unpredictable occurrence of El Nino events, and that there are two types of El Nino events: Eastern Pacific events and Central Pacific events.
It has always been thought of as chaotic. However, our study essentially identifies that there is much less chaos in there, and that there is actually order, in the sense that El Nino in the Eastern Equatorial Pacific and the Central Pacific are actually parts of two oscillatory modes in the system.
A group of 40 climate scientists from 11 countries met from October last year at Busan National University. Analyzing climate observations and computer model simulations, the team discovered the mechanism behind El Nino's chaotic behavior. When the upper tropical Pacific Ocean stores more heat, El Nino events tend to peak in the Eastern Pacific, whereas a cooler upper ocean system leads to the development of Central Pacific El Nino events, which are less closely linked to the seasons. By running a simulation for different temperatures, wind, and ocean current configurations, the research team found the Eastern Pacific events occur every 3 to 7 years, while Central Pacific events tend to happen on average of every 2 to 3 years. Experts say while more comprehensive climate modeling studies need to be conducted, scientists can now closely predict El Nino events, and they're set to study the blueprints of the La Nina events next. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
And now to the latest from Laos and the collapsed dam that was under construction. Nearly 20 people have died from the flooding, and many more are still unaccounted for. The South Korean government says it is sending a team of emergency relief workers to assist the Southeast Asian country still reeling from that fatal flooding. Our Kim Mo-gyun with the latest.
According to Vientiane Times, a state-run paper in Laos, at least 19 people have died and some 50 more are missing in the southeastern part of the country after a hydroelectric dam under construction collapsed Monday evening. The Sepien Senamnoi hydropower plant in a top province was being built by a joint venture including South Korea's SK Engineering and Construction and partners from Laos and Thailand, and was expected to go into full operation next year. South Korean President Moon Jae-in has ordered his government to do all it can to help Laos cope with the disaster. According to his spokesman, he called for strong support measures, including the dispatch of an emergency relief team as soon as Thursday.
Although the exact cause of the accident is not yet known, President Moon said that since Korean firms were involved in the construction process, the government should participate actively in relief measures.
The government of Laos says the flooding was caused by the part of the dam built by SK E&C collapsing. But the Korean builder says an unexpectedly large amount of water from recent heavy rains flowed over the dam and broke pieces of it, causing the area to flood. SK says that while the investigation goes on, it's actively engaged in rescue operations by establishing a crisis management team and dispatching Thailand-based helicopters to rescue stranded people. Kim Mo-gyun, Arirang News.
Amid a global heat wave, wildfires continue to spread in Greece and in the U.S. The death toll from the worst forest fires in Greece in more than a decade has now reached at least 80. And the intense heat is also feeding wildfires in the western part of the United States. Now, for more on this and other news around the world, we turn to our Aram at the news center. So, Aram, what's the latest?
Well, Simon, in Greece, the search for people missing from Monday's rapidly spreading wildfires is continuing. As you said, at least 80 people now have died, and officials say it is unlikely they will find any more survivors, so the death toll could rise even further. The blaze started in the resort town of Mati near Athens, causing residents to flee towards the sea, but many were burned alive as the pace in which the fire spread was too quick for them to escape. More than 70 people were being treated in hospital as of Wednesday, 10 of them in serious condition. Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras has declared a state of emergency, and some of Greece's neighbours have offered assistance. Meanwhile, in the United States, the so-called Ferguson fire, which has been burning for about 2 weeks now, has forced thousands to flee California's Yosemite Valley. Some areas of Yosemite National Park, a popular tourist destination, have also been closed. More than 3,000 firefighters have so far managed to contain about 25% of the Ferguson fire, but scorching weather conditions and high winds are forecast for the next couple of days in the region. Weather officials warn that these conditions could lead to more wildfires there. In other news, Donald Trump has lashed out at his former lawyer Michael Cohen over a leaked recording in which the US president appears to talk about paying off a Playboy model. The tape, made 2 months before the 2016 presidential election, was aired on CNN on Tuesday and captures Trump and Cohen discussing a potential payment for Karen McDougal's story about an alleged affair she had with Trump years earlier. Trump tweeted Wednesday, quote, "What kind of a lawyer would tape a client? So sad." He went on to ask why the tape was so abruptly cut while he was presumably saying positive things. In the tape, Trump can be heard saying "pay in cash," although the context has been disputed. The president has denied there was an affair, and the lawyers of both Trump and Cohen have said no payment was made. Cohen is said to have given about a dozen recordings to the FBI as part of an investigation into a possible breach of campaign finance law. Italian scientists say they have discovered a lake of liquid water beneath the southern polar ice cap of Mars. The finding was reported in the journal Science on Wednesday and is the result of radar echoes picked up by an instrument on a spacecraft that has been orbiting the red planet for 15 years. The pool is said to be about 20 kilometers wide and located about 1.5 kilometers beneath the ice surface. Researchers noted that the lake's ice-cold temperatures and high levels of salt create a harsh environment for any living organism, but they didn't rule out completely the possibility of life. In order to find out if there is, scientists will have to send a robot that is able to drill through the thick layer of ice that is encapsulating the lake.
Good morning. It's going to be another steamy day under mostly sunny skies. And it's going to be hotter in Seoul today with an expected high of 35 degrees Celsius. Daegu and Gyeongju will be sweltering hot at 38 degrees. Now, the hottest summer on the Korean peninsula was back in 1994. And this summer is getting close to reach that level. But back then, typhoons in August helped to cool things down, even though August is normally the hottest month of the year. However, back in 2016, we had no typhoon affecting the Korean peninsula in the summer, and it was very hot in August. So if the current weather system holds, next month could be really harsh as well. On that note, the 12th typhoon of the season, Jongdari, will move northwards and pass near Dokdo Island next Monday, and it might bring some relief from the ongoing heat. With that, let's take a look at the international weather for viewers around the world. So South Korea is sweltering again, but many parts of North Korea will have some welcome rain. And what a tough summer for Japan. Typhoon Jongdari is still well to the south of mainland Japan, and it might bring heavy rain and strong winds starting Friday. In Wellington, morning clouds could bring showers before a mostly sunny afternoon. An excessive heat warning is in effect in Los Angeles until Friday, so beware. As for South America, Brazil's two biggest cities will have similar weather conditions. Taking you to Europe, parts of Britain could sizzle in 36 degrees heat on Thursday on what is likely to be the hottest July day on record. Lastly, to Africa, Cairo will be sweltering in highs similar to Daegu in South Korea at 38 degrees. And that's the weather update for now.
And that is it for us at the hour on Arirang News. But keep it tuned for more news updates coming up at noon Korea time, so in a little over an hour and a half times. Thank you for watching and goodbye for now.